Hey beautiful people, it's Delilah, your plant-based dietitian and energy healer, and today I'm going to talk about the connection between emotional honesty, pleasure, and fatty foods. I'm really excited to talk about this one today because it pretty much directly ties into intuitive eating, and as I talk more, I think you will see what I'm saying. So first, let me give a little bit of background. So as a dietitian and energy healer, I combine those two worlds a lot, and I almost always look at our eating habits as they relate to our spiritual health, right? I always try to apply a spiritual, energetic lens when I'm, thinking and talking about food and our relationship to food and eating habits. Fats, as well as fluids, are what resonate with the sacral chakra. And it makes sense because the element of that chakra is water. The sacral chakra is centered around our emotions, so that's where the emotional honesty part comes in, as well as pleasure, fun, enjoyment, sensuality, sexuality, and also just having that healthy amount of flexibility to be able to go with the flow. Again, the element of this chakra is water, so going with the flow is another key theme. Being able to welcome healthy change in your life and just not being too rigid. Our body uses fats in many different ways. We use them to absorb certain types of vitamins, our fat-soluble vitamins, vitamins A, D, E, and K. We use them to synthesize certain hormones. So in addition to all those different processes I just mentioned, fats also signal satiety to our body. When we're eating, fats help signal that we are satisfied, right? That we have had enough. Now, although eating food is something that we need to do for survival, it is also something that we do for pleasure in addition to survival. And that's where the sacral chakra comes in. That's where the pleasure and emotional honesty comes in, right? Because honestly, it's really hard for people to trust themselves, right? It's hard for people to allow themselves to feel that pleasure, to feel vulnerable, to feel that pleasure from eating. And it could be for a variety of reasons, like control issues, vulnerability issues, emotional honesty issues. It could be so many different things that are underlying that. But overall, usually it's the pleasure part that people have a hard time accepting. Now, I mentioned earlier that this directly ties into intuitive eating, and that's because a very central theme with intuitive eating is trusting your body to know when you've had enough, right? Trusting your body to eat to satiety, to find pleasure in food, and to find just enough pleasure in food to be satisfied. It's hard with diet culture. It's hard for people to do that without prescribed rules. They're like, no, I need rules to tell me when to stop and when to eat this and when to not eat this. But actually, no, we really don't. If you just trust yourself, right, then you're not gonna go overboard. And there's some vulnerability there too, right? Because you're letting yourself feel good, feel something good. And that vulnerability ties into the sacral chakra as well, because like I mentioned, it is centered around pleasure, enjoyment, sexuality, sensuality. Sensuality is feeling good, feeling yourself, allowing yourself to feel pleasure. And people struggle with that, right? On a life level in general, and then it manifests through food. In order to get to the bottom of it, emotional honesty. That's what you need, emotional honesty. Figure out, have a conversation with yourself, self-reflect for a minute. Ask yourself, why can I allow myself to feel pleasure? What's stopping me? Why don't I trust myself? Why am I afraid to allow that part of myself feel something, right? Ask yourself these questions. And that is where we start to dig deep and uncover the emotional honesty and and start to just repair that relationship with food, which in turn repairs the relationship with ourselves, and we can be flowing in a good harmony. So again, this is about emotional honesty, pleasure, and fatty foods. And I mentioned in the beginning that fatty foods are correlated with the sacral chakra. The sacral chakra deals with pleasure, emotions, sensuality, sexuality, enjoyment, and fun. If you find yourself struggling to allow yourself to enjoy food, like it's hard for you to trust yourself to enjoy the foods that you like to eat, whether they're like the rich fatty desserts and things like that, or just really just anything that you like to eat, but then you feel guilty for eating them, you don't allow yourself that pleasure, then ask yourself why. Like, why is that? Ask yourself, why do I struggle to allow myself to experience pleasure and joy through food? I am a mind, body, spirit dietitian, so of course, yes, I care about food and nutrients and all that good stuff, but I also care about our spirit and our energetic health. And so because of that, that's why I care so much about our relationship to food, because our relationship to food is a direct reflection of our relationship to ourselves, right? The way we take care of ourselves and nourish our body reflects the way that we relate to ourselves, right? It's our personal connection, right? That's the juice right there. That's the good stuff. All right, friends, it was really good talking to you. If you want to see more of these videos, make sure you are subscribed to my channel so you're up to date when the next one drops. Until next time, take care.